colleagues, and afternoon, I think, if there are colleagues in from Central Asia. My name is Anne-Marie Swai. I'm the Regional Emergency Advisor for UNICEF based out of Geneva. I'm one of the newer participants in the CADRI network, although I can't say that anymore. It's been over a year and a half, and co-facilitate this role with Armin. So thank you for joining, and we look forward to spending this time with you. Before we go in, Sophie, I wonder, are you going to be putting up the presentation?
Yes, of course. I'm doing it right now. That was just for us to have the pleasure to see some of the faces online.
Absolutely.
But now your nice faces will be replaced by the presentation. I see Emmanuel is connecting. So do you see the presentation?
Chat.
Now it's coming.
Now
There
we
we
can
go.
see.
Yes.
Do you see it in full screen?
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Because usually I always have problems with full screen. So it's a good, it means the meeting starts under good auspices.
Thank you very much, Anne-Marie. Thank you for putting up the presentation, Sophie. UNDP and UNICEF, me and Anne-Marie, are the regional co-hosts of the CADRI Partnership in the Europe and Central Asia region. In every region, it works different way. There are different agencies involved in it in other regions. In our region, it is the setup is such. And we are very pleased actually to work with Sophie and the CADRI Secretariat and all of you colleagues to move this agenda forward. Speaking of agenda, we would like to briefly go through the agenda for today and make sure that everybody is on the same page and there are no kind of red flags, or if you have any additions to the agenda, we would also be considering to cover them today during our session. So the first point on the agenda is the rapid overview of CADRI. Then the CADRI digital tool will be presented to you, and the CADRI digital tool applications and rationale. Then we will have some interactive part of the session. There will be a quiz. Further, we will explore the CADRI digital tool functionalities and try some of them, see how they work. We will also have a Q&A session and wrap up and next steps. If there are any specific issues that you would like to address, please put them in the chat. We don't have a dedicated any other business session, but we will try to address your suggestions during this event. So going once, going twice, I think we are all happy with the agenda, and the colleagues, we will be, of course, flexible in addressing, the issues that arise as we go through the agenda. Next slide, please, Sophie. Yeah. So the first part is the overview of CADRI, what CADRI is, how it started, and where it is now. As you can see, there are quite a few organizations that are contributing or partnering with CADRI. And on this slide, they are divided in three kind of groups or subgroups. There are executive partners, which is more or less like permanent members of Security Council. There are technical partners, which are providing technical contribution to the CADRI development documents as well as to the missions. And there are advisory partners who are providing not only technical contribution, but also have an advisory function to development of CADRI approaches and development of CADRI documents based on country engagements. The partners include two broader groups, humanitarian partners and development partners, as you could see. Yes, please. Yes. The CADRI story. The CADRI story is one fascinating story that started, I think first it started in early 90s. And it was called the DMTP, Disaster Management Training Program, which was a joint initiative between UNDP and who remembers ERD, Emergency Response Division, which now is OCHA. And the evolution of CADRI then moved into bringing in at that time UN-IDNDR and then UN-ISDR and UN-DRR, which are the different reincarnations of the same institution. The approach to the CADRI, or the idea behind the CADRI, was, a group of people and organizations that, started to think about capacities that are required to address disaster risk reduction at various levels. And as most of you probably know, disaster risk reduction is a subject of attention and interest and practice within the UN system. It started in early 90s, so CADRI was right on spot in attending to this. The group of organizations that first it was 2, then it was 3, and then the MTP turned into CADRI in mid-2000s, and building the facility to capitalize on expertise of specialized agencies that contribute to the CADRI. Slowly, I think the idea of the CADRI has become more appealing to a broader group of institutions and organizations, both within the United Nations system and outside of it. And the CADRI has steadily evolved into becoming a unique mechanism for CADRIs to mobilize a pool of expertise coming from various institutions and providing very different type of expertise and approaches. And I think this is one of the most appreciated strengths of CADRI. Indeed, this slide indicates that bringing whole of a system expertise to the country offices, this is something that CADRI has been pioneering and was very successful, I think, in doing. And, of course, not all agencies contributing to all activities of the CADRI. When you go to a country office with a specific request that normally comes from the RC office, you would normally see that, which agencies can contribute a great deal to the typology of the request that is coming from the RC office, from the country team. At the same time, I think, in the last year and this year, which was, I think, the weirdest year in our professional times with the COVID, I think a lot of the work of all of the agencies, but CADRI as a group as well, went online. And one of the very strong articulations of this is the CADRI digital tool, which we will be reviewing and getting familiarized today. CADRI is falling under the Secretary General's reform agenda to expand the offer of the whole of a system expertise to the countries and ensure that there is a humanitarian development nexus is addressed in all engagements of the CADRI. And there are several principles that CADRI is, of course, following in its work. Leave no one behind. LNOB is one of the key principles for whole of a system, not only for country partners. Mainstreaming conflict sensitivity is the second one, which I think is very useful and timely because conflict disaster interface, in my view, has not been explored enough. And I think this is something that CADRI can contribute to. Integrating climate change and disaster risk reduction. To me, climate change adaptation and disaster risk reduction are very similar, if not the same. Therefore, most of the disasters also that we can see in different parts of the world are climate change originated. And I think bringing these two areas together is critical. The fourth and the final principle that CADRI is using is multi-hazard approach and multi-dimensional risks. Of course, having 20 plus partners in the CADRI partnership, I think it provides for a very solid foundation of having multiple risks and multiple hazards and multiple approaches. And that is, as I said, I think earlier already, that is, I think, one of the strongest values of CADRI. Next, yes. So the CADRI regionalization, as we introduced ourselves, Anne-Marie and myself, we are the co-hosts of the CADRI Partnership in the Europe and Central Asia region. You will see UNICEF and UNDP on the slide. And as I said, there are different settings for CADRI Partnership in different regions. We have WHO and FAO, we have UNDRR, we have UNDP. There are some regions that have more than one co-hosts or regional co-hosts. There are some parts where we have only one agency leading and others contributing. The CADRI engagement in Europe and CIS region to date, you can see the number of CADRI countries, not countries, number of countries that was covered by CADRI. In reality, I think in previous reincarnation of CADRI during the DMTP, there were also a number of other countries that were covered by CADRI. And I think the capacity assessment module of CADRI, which was one of the first modules, was piloted in 1999, if I'm not mistaken, but maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, you will see the two countries highlighted on this list, Kyrgyz Republic and Uzbekistan. In Kyrgyz Republic, we have an ongoing engagement with a number of CADRI partners actively contributing to it. There was a virtual scoping mission, which was completed very recently, and we are now negotiating with the government the realistic date for the full-fledged mission to CADRI, which can probably be a hybrid mission, part in person, part virtual. Uzbekistan is the next one that is highlighted on the screen. This is in the pipeline. We have received an interest, an expression of interest from the UN-IFRC's office. Some of the key agencies have also supported it from the country team. And I think now we are working with the RC office to see what would be the modus operandi of engagement for CADRI, what are the issues that they would like to tackle, and what would be the timeline that will be acceptable for partners and on the ground, various country team agencies, as well as partners of CADRI at the regional level. Next, please. Yes, and I think I will stop here. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm handing over to Anne-Marie. No?
No, actually, I think you went through the full introductory session, which is great.
Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
think we managed to cover it well. So thank you actually for doing it.
I got too excited.
You got carried away.
Absolutely. But maybe just to end on Armin's session and before we hand over to Sophie, I'm looking here and there's about 32 participants, which is excellent. So thank you all for joining. And also just in terms of the two upcoming and ongoing pieces of engagement, the Kyrgyz public engagement, we're moving from the scoping mission to actually doing the country capacity assessment. And even as we work and look and see what we will be able to do in Uzbekistan, we'd really like to take the opportunity to really ask you as technical experts, as partners within the CADRI initiative, to please let us know if you would be able to participate your expertise in these two technical missions. We know that we'll be looking at areas abroad against the broad scope of risk reduction, also climate change action, and really looking to see how we can give a value proposition and support governments and really draw from an interagency perspective like we use to promote an intergovernmental and intersectoral perspective within our government partners. So I'll just end this session by thanking you for taking part. And really, please do reach out to Sophie, Armin, and myself after this session if you would be able to participate in the ongoing and upcoming assessments in Kyrgyzstan and Uzbekistan. So thank you very much, and I'll hand over to Sophie.
Thank you, colleagues, and good morning again, and welcome. I recognize a lot of friendly faces on the screen, so it's really nice to see you. So, you know, we are organizing now this series of webinars, and the focus is not so much on CADRI. We did this short overview of CADRI if some of you have not been involved in CADRI in the past, but the focus today is really not so much on the CADRI business model, which can be another discussion, but really on the tool and why we needed to do this, the revision of this tool, why the CADRI partners have engaged in this massive effort, and what are our expectations from this tool for all of us to be more efficient in the way we deliver advisory services to government and to the whole of government. So I'm going to touch a bit on what was the rationale for this tool revision, and also what will be the next step at the end, because this is really like an introductory webinar. But what we hope to do is, of course, to have like a specific focus on each of the sector. And as you know, today the CADRI partnership covers 9 to 10 sectors, because we're also developing. I mean, we're planning to develop the mining sector, which we see as really a sector of interest. But today is much more an introduction to the CADRI tool revision. So, as you know, this tool, this methodology, this tool, we developed it together. So Armen touched on the fact that, I mean, CADRI, the CADRI partnership has been in existence for more than a decade. But in 2014, this is really when the tool was developed as a common UN and IFRC methodology. And it was tested in more than 30 countries. Actually, I think it's 35 now. So, you know, I mean, the tool is really this like bridge between humanitarian and development advisory partners, advisory support. The key principle of this tool and methodology was it's government-led. It's not an external evaluation approach, as you know. Government is leading, is actually really coordinating, designing. So it really depends on the country context. In some countries, there is stronger leadership from the government than in others. And the tool was multi-hazard and most importantly, multi-sectoral. And you see all the sectors here, right? Which basically support the government, look at risk reduction across the SDGs. Now, why this need to revise the content? The first thing is that the methodology was seen a bit as one size fits all, in the sense that it was difficult to really customize it, for instance, to a middle income country, to a LDC, to a small island. It was it was not so customizable. And it was felt that in some regions, that the feedback we got, it was really not, it was not sophisticated enough. It was not enabling really a deep analysis of certain specific issues, like, for instance, risk transfer, risk insurance product. I mean, depending on the government, they had sometimes very specific requirements that the tool was not really enabling to in type of focus on that. The tool was definitely gender blind. But beyond gender blind, this whole ambition of what does that mean operationalizing, leaving no one behind? What tools do we need? What policies? What methodologies? What skills do we need to approach this leaving no one behind agenda? And this was not really, the tool was not helping us to do that. And it was not seen super flexible in terms of the application, in how it really promoted. It was a bit heavy in terms of process as well. This is the feedback we got from some of the mission. So the revision was to improve the quality. First, integrating much more climate change adaptation in the tool, including long-term adaptation. if in some countries the request from the government is really to have a DRR climate adaptation capacity diagnosis. Integrate some elements. It remains a multi-hazard tool, but the idea was also to, if we got requests from government to say, oh, I really want to see what are the systems required for avalanche. What skills do we need specifically for drought? What does that mean, drought monitoring? So what we wanted to really expand the tool to also integrate some specific let's say elements relating to specific hazards. Not all of the hazards that UNDR has classified, but some of them. So leaving no one behind, I touched on it. I think Armen touched on the conflict sensitivity aspect, which are very strong right now in the tool. On how can we integrate, how can we build a risk reduction system that can also limit potential for social tension, etc. And of course, what was also missing in the tool before was a private sector angle. How can we look at the capacities required to build a conducive environment to risk-informed private sector investment? So we still have a generic questionnaire in some ways in the tool and the sectoral questionnaire, but or modules, but all those elements have been integrated. Now, the last point I would like to make on this is that the CADRI partners have really made a major effort in revising these modules in 2020. You cannot imagine. And I want to acknowledge the agencies that have led this effort. We don't see the last one for the integration of leaving no one behind and gender, which were UNFPA and IFRC, with input from UN Women. But you see, also this has been a massive effort, really, to be able to improve the quality of the tool, and we wanted to really give credit to all the agencies that played a strong lead role, including UNFPA and IFRC that you don't see at the bottom of the page, I think. Now, in addition to the content, the tool was also revised to be digitalized. And it's not digitalization for the sake of digitalization, just to make it more fancy, because it's honestly quite costly to go digital. But it is really, we really thought through very in depth what would be the added value of digitalization. So of course it's customization, because the fact that we have a much more sophisticated tool in terms of content, it's also more complex to navigate. So the idea with the customization was to be able to say, okay, if I want to do only the preparedness, I want to look only at drought, I want to look only at risk information system. Everything is possible with this type of customization once the government is very clear on what are the requirements. So this is really the main rationale for customization. We can also ensure that those principles of leaving the one behind conflict sensitivity, we can check whether they are covered in the final product. So this type of digital functionalities. Now also what we have introduced in the tool is a scoring, which was not at all in place before. And then it helps us also, it can help the government do some visualization. What also is of interest with digitalization, I'm not going to touch on everything, but it's also that the government can access the tool and run the diagnosis without also CADRI support, the CADRI expertise. So the tool will be somehow a bit like a public domain tool in some ways that can be accessible. Like we had this case, for instance, in Ecuador, where the government wanted to adopt the methodology for their own use without necessarily calling upon the expertise from the UN and IFRC system. So, and of course, as you know, I mean, the tool is not only a capacity diagnosis tool, it's also a tool to support government go through a process of prioritization. And the way we used to do it, the government used to do it often is like you have workshop with representatives from different sector ministries and you discuss budgeting and priorities. Here, with the digitalization, we can really expand significantly how we involve different stakeholders in different sectors, including private sector stakeholders, including civil society. So that's not developed yet because this functionality will be developed this year, sorry, next year. But the participative planning is also very key. And of course, with the COVID-19 pandemic, what was nice to have became also a must-have, because the idea is that a digital tool can also help, this type of hybrid mission we're thinking of for Kyrgyz Republic, where you can have a mix of face-to-face and virtual missions. So I will stop here, and I'm going to hand over to my colleague Ruben to give you also an overview of the tool itself, how it is structured, but this is slightly different from what we had in the past. Then we will have a quiz to check if you're really listening in. And then we will have our colleague Bogdan navigating the functionalities with you, exploring the digital functionalities with you. Thank you, and I hand over to my colleague Ruben.
Good morning to all. Good afternoon. So, thanks, Sophie. Yeah, as Sophie was explaining, then there was this rationale to develop the tool, the digital tool, and now we're going to quickly show you some of the elements that have resulted after this broad consultation, because this is also something that was the result of discussions with all the different partner agencies that not only contributed to the development of the modules, but also to the specification of the CADRI tool, in the sense that what is that we like to see, how the tool could help facilitate the implementation of the capacity diagnosis missions. So Sophie, you can go to the. So the purpose of the capacity diagnosis, the tool. The tool is the main purpose to facilitate the implementation of the capacity diagnosis, because we know that the key component of this capacity diagnosis is this process of the different agencies coming together, bringing their expertise to address difficult issues and issues that countries want to also improve in their specific context. So the main purpose here is to have this common understanding of this common, what we call a common analytical frame, common understanding of the issues we are going to address, how to address them, how to ask about them, the key issues that we need to look at when we are trying to diagnose the capacities of the country to address disaster risk. And also the other element is to facilitate the coordination among the different actors that participate in this capacity diagnosis. This meaning all the UN agencies, all the other stakeholders that participate, and of course the government. So apply a common analytical frame, and also looking at how to assess the country capacities to manage and reduce climate and disaster risk. Who are the users? Okay, it's okay. Sophie already mentioned that the intention is that the users can be the government experts, the UN country teams, national stakeholders, different experts, different agencies at the national level, the CADRI regional partners, and of course the UNDAC, and different other stakeholders. But the idea is that the tool can be of use for many different stakeholders with the different interests, different expectations. The next one. The idea is also about the tool is we have a single tool that meets different needs of different actors, different stakeholders. So as you can see here, list the type of, say, like products, deliverables that the tool could facilitate to obtain. We already mentioned, Sophie already mentioned, the integration with the DRR and climate change in this capacity diagnosis report. How can we look at these two elements that the country needs to address? How can we look at it in an integrated way? So the idea is that the tool can provide this guidance to the different teams looking to answer these specific questions about how to integrate these components. We can also have a look at specific components, like in this case, for instance, the disaster preparedness capacity. In terms of preparedness, what are the things that we need to look at when we are looking at the capacity of the country? also in another component is the climate change adaptation. Risk information, also very important here, is okay, if we are to produce information, so what are the policies that we have in place? Are they really designed to address the country needs? And what are the processes that are being implemented to implement those policies, those specific policies? So here is like the main purpose, one single tool that can help to address the needs of different users, different expectations. We also have like we have mentioned the integration of the conflict sensitivity, this issue that we have to address development and the humanitarian nexus, how to address those two components. So it's also something that has been integrated in the tool, as you also want to see. Next. We have already mentioned it before, different needs, and also then to address different needs. These needs that can be translated into different products. So here we are looking at some of the options now that we have. Like in some cases, the countries, what they want to do is to develop the national disaster reduction and climate change strategies and action plans. So going from identifying what are the gaps, the needs, to translate those into action plans to address those gaps. To also inform, if we are looking at the preparedness specific components, so how can we inform, how can we improve what we have as a contingency planning at the national level? So the product also can address those needs, try to address those needs. Entry points for the risk reduction and national development plans, as we have said before, we have the national strategies, but those strategies, how can they be addressed, looking at the sectoral components of the national development plans, how the disaster reduction and climate change adaptation are integrated in the implementation of those plans. And more at the national, more say in the context of the UN agenda and the different elements, different tools and instruments that the UN has to support countries. So then also how the products that they can be obtained through the application or through the methodology, the CADRI methodology, can also help and support this process. Now, the development of the cooperation framework, integration is a key component, integration of the area of climate change. This is also, again, helping to implement the joint UN program, because the idea is all the agencies come together, working in coordinated way with the government to develop an action plan that helps and supports the needs of the different stakeholders. Sorry, so Dan is looking. And of course, okay, whose capacities? Then this is also one of the elements that the design of the tool is trying to address. So we are looking at primary and secondary focus. On the primary focus is national and local public sector, national government, the different actors, sectors at the national level, how they can improve the capacities to address these issues. Secondary focus goes into private sector, civil society, and collaboration with other agencies, the global initiative or civil society organizations. So different actors that can participate in this process, but the main focus remains the national government, as national government, and also trying to integrate the local governments. Beyond focus, well, you can see here it's still that sometimes is a little bit more difficult to integrate also the different citizens and communities and other actors that are more local at the local level. But at this point, we are trying to focus on these main actors. Second, as a result of the consultation that we had with the different agencies, different actors that participated in this revision of the CADRI tool, so the suggestion, the question was, how do we address these capacities? What are the framework that we can use to diagnose the capacities of the country? So as a result of this process, we have identified like 5 what we call capacity dimensions that can be used to frame, to assess, to analyze the capacities of the country to address disaster risk reduction. So we have the governance component, the how, the regulations, the law, the roles and responsibilities, how is the framework that the government has established to be able to implement these the policies that are defined to address disaster reduction. The implementation capacity. So we have the frame, but what are the capacities that we have to implement those policies, those strategies that we have defined? The financing, where are the resources that are going to support those processes? The knowledge that we need to know in order to implement, to define actions, and the technology and the equipment that is also required to support all this process. If we go to the next slide. Here is a more detailed description of what we call the capacity dimensions, of elements, the main, if you will, main categories around which the CADRI tool has been now designed, the main capacity dimensions, and we have what we call the capacity dimension elements, and then you're going to see that reflected in the tool, and that's how also the different agencies have developed or reviewed their sector modules, meaning those, we call it sector modules, are the questions that can lead the process to assess the capacity. So at the governance level, what are the key elements that we need to ask for? So we know the governance is an important capacity dimension, and the elements to look at when we're looking at governance we are looking at the legislation, at the policies, the institutional mandates and arrangements, roles and responsibilities. So like that, for each capacity dimension, there are some specific capacity dimension elements that are going to be reflected in those modules that have been developed by the different lead agencies. Next one. So here we're going to go to the evaluation. So we, as Sophie was saying, that try to see just to before we go into the demonstration of the tool, what we're going to do and what Bogdan is going to do. As you know, we're in the process of developing the tool. So we are going to have like Bogdan was explaining me like a demo of the interface, like a static demo, meaning the tool is not yet completely fully developed, but we can already see how it's going to look like, different functionalities that are going to be available for different users. So that's from my side, and you're going to see a little bit more of this talk. You're going to see more in concrete ways when Bogdan is going to present the demo. So now I give the floor to our evaluator, who is Carla.
Good morning and good afternoon, colleagues. I hope you're still energized, because if not, now's the moment to wake up, because your newly gained knowledge is being tested now. So I would like you to all participate in this quiz that I'm going to launch now, which is 10 questions. Your answers will be anonymous, but so you can test yourself and see how many of the questions you get right. So let's start. The first question is, how many organizations constitute the CADRI Partnership? So an easy question to get you warmed up a bit. The second question is already a little bit more technical. So the statement is, the CADRI technical partners have a commitment to deploy expertise when required in response to a government or UNCT request. True or false? I can already see lots of right answers, so that's good. Next question. The CADRI partnership services can be directly mobilized by UN country teams without a government request. True or false? And I can hope you already see which was the right answer after you submit. If not, please let me know, because I can share the right answers afterwards if you're not able to see it. So I'm moving on to the next question. The CADRI host agencies in the ECIS region are UNDRR and UNICEF. True or false?
Carla, apparently some people don't have the quiz in their screens. Maybe you can share the link.
Okay. Yeah, for this, let me share the link. Okay, now there's a link in the chat, so you can also access the survey in your browser. Meanwhile, I'm moving on to the next question. How many countries received support from the CADRI Partnership in the ECIS region over the past decade? Was it 8 countries, 5 countries, or 2 countries? I can see people have been listening, so that's really good. And I'm moving on to the next question, which is now really about the CADRI digital tool. So the CADRI tool was revised to integrate leaving no one behind and conflict sensitivity principles. True or false? And this is of course true. So the partners spent a lot of effort to integrate these principles. So we are very proud and happy that this was accomplished. Now another question on the tool is, the CADRI digital tool will also be available for governments to use without CADRI support. True or false? It seems Teams is a little bit overwhelmed by all of your responses. But I can see most of you got it right. So again, congrats. That's really good. And I think we still have one more question on the tool. So the CADRI digital tool will also allow for more inclusive and participative prioritization of investment in disaster risk reduction. True or false? This is of course true, and I'm very happy to see that every one of you got this question right. And this question is a multiple answer question. So which of these report types are supported by the CADRI digital tool? Do you remember? Please select all that apply. Great, I'm getting a lot of answers. And now I'm going to launch the last question. And with this, we will close the quiz. The 5 CADRI executive partners have been invited to join Jeff Bezos in his first flight to space. True or false? Yeah, sadly, this is not the case, although it would be really cool. So thank you all so much for participating. I hope that you're all energized again and ready for the next part of the session. So with this, I would like to hand over to Bogdan now. Thank you, colleagues.
Hi, everyone. I'm Bogdan Spotaro, user interface designer. I have joined CADRI as a consultant early this year and help with creating the new tool. I will try now to share my screen so I can give you like a quick demonstration of the main tool functionalities. I hope everyone can see the screen correctly.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
At least I can.
So today I'm going to present you some key features of the tool we are developing. At this point, the tool have a functional interface, and we can show you some of the most important functionality that will be developed inside the tool. In the first part of this demo, I will cover the process of planning a CADRI capacity dimension diagnosis mission, customizing the capacity diagnosis based on the country context and interest. The first step in the process of planning a capacity diagnosis is to create a mission. From our interface, we are going to the section where the missions are created. On this section, the user will select first the mission type. There are 4 types of mission which can be selected: a scoping mission, a capacity diagnosis, prioritization and planning, and monitoring. For example, let's create a capacity diagnosis mission type. Then the user will select the country. Let's select, for example, a country. We can select a type of report that will be created at the end of the mission. We have different type of reports which can be selected. Let's select one, for example. We add a date, and the title is generated automatically from the mission information. The next step will be to select modules. We can select one or more modules. After, we can select some hazards. The same, we can select one or more hazards. Based on this selected information, in the backend of the tool, a frame composed from the specific questions generated by this selection is created automatically. We are calling this group of questions a country analytical frame. The second step in the process of planning is to map and deploy a multidisciplinary team. From our interface, we are going back where the mission details were just created. Here, on this section, after creating the mission, a user with a specific role can build and structure a team which will work together in the mission process. For each of the users selected, a role will be assigned depending on his main specialization. The next step in the process of planning will be to assign responsibilities to the team members. This process will happen in the questions frame we initially created when we started the new mission, the one we called country analytical frame. Here, a set of questions grouped under a specific module and the capacity can be assigned to one or more users. The second part of my demo is about conducting the capacity diagnosis. In our interface, we are going back to the mission page. At this step, inside the mission, all the team members have assigned to them a specific set of questions and depending on their specialization, team members have options to refilter their set of questions by adding, for example, a new principle. Let's select, for example, leave no one behind. All the questions will be filtered automatically, taking in consideration the new tag which was added. One of the key features of this tool is to allow users and agencies to build a set of questions outside the mission, which are related to a specific module and can be filtered by multiple tags. For example, going in our interface to the question bank and selecting a capacity and a principle, let's select, for example, leave no one behind. The question bank will filter taking in consideration this tag we selected. In the third part of my presentation, I will show you the tool ability to monitor progress, compile the information gathered by the assessor, and build a final report. From our interface, we are going back to the mission page. Inside the mission section, users can follow the progress of data provided by each member. going inside his assigned set of questions, for example, a team member can score a question, add findings, hazards analysis, justification, and recommendation. Going back to the mission page, all the data gathered from all the users will be compiled into a final report. The final report will contain all the mission data inserted by the user, along with the diagrams that will be automatically created based on the score and the user information. In the last part of the presentation, I will talk about building knowledge on sector expertise. From our interface, we are going back into the users module where we create new users. For each of the users added inside the tool, a profile will be created. Information about his area of specialization, geographical coverage will be stored. And this way, a global expertise database will be created inside the tool. This will facilitate the planning of future mission and will allow the tool user to find an expert easily. And I think that's all I want to present you for today. Just a short teaser of the main key features of the tool. I hope you enjoy it. And I think next on our meeting, we will open the question and answer session. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Bogdan. So we thought we'd give you a preview a bit of the digital functionalities. The next, then we will have much more focused webinar session. We will have a webinar session only on leaving no one behind, and how did we manage to integrate these across different sector modules. So we could select maybe 3 sector modules like migration, maybe the generic module on preparedness, and then maybe, I don't know, agriculture and health. And then be able to say, okay, how do we use the tool to operationalize leaving no one behind, India, and climate adaptation in those 3 sector modules. So we will have much more specialized modules that you will be free to join. We can also have a special module on nutrition, where some of the WHO and I don't know, FAO and WFP experts will join. So this is coming, but this one was much more to give you a bit of an overview of the tool. So we would like to start, yes, take any question you may have now. You can use either the chat or you can just raise your hand. And colleagues, help me if I don't see colleagues raising their hand on any part of the presentation today.
Cultural heritage.
Yes, I see there is a question on cultural heritage. Maybe you can ask the question. Please take the floor. We don't hear you. I see that I see the question was, do we have experts on cultural heritage? So the experts, I mean, how to say, the UNESCO led the development of and the revision of the cultural heritage module. There is still a little bit of work on it, but then it will be uploaded on the digital interface. And then we will, I mean, basically we will rely on UNESCO experts and organize a specific webinar for UNESCO experts on how to use the tool, and so that we can have UNESCO experts deployed on interagency mission to countries when there is a specific requirement to focus on cultural heritage by the government. Any other question? I don't see. Please don't be shy. Question either on the tool functionalities or any of the feature, or maybe the first part of the presentation.
Rashford, Sophie, Adrian has raised his hand.
Okay, sorry, I don't see everything. So
Marie Meline also.
okay, so please, Adrian.
Thank you very much, Sophie, and I will apologise because I missed due to other meetings. But have you reviewed the countries that you have done major assessments of in the past and the impact of these large multi-sector assessments overall?
Yes, of course, because, you know, I mean, of course, the transaction costs sometimes can be high for the UN and IFRC to mobilize this type of expertise. So, of course, our main concern has always been, how do we measure impact? How can we attribute impact to CADRI, right? Also, because there can be changes which are not attributed, cannot be attributed to the CADRI engagement. So we have, yes, we have. So we have done, before doing the new John program, there was a country impact study, which was done, I think, in 6 or 8 countries just before the John program. And actually, the John program was informed by that. That's one. Second, at the CADRI board, there is a board of directors. We systematically invite a UN resident coordinator to provide feedback on the support they received and what was the impact from their perspective, what could be improved. So this is really first-hand feedback. We also run what we call the beneficiary survey, the client beneficiary survey. So this is sent to agencies, to a resident coordinator, to government after a CADRI mission. So there are many mechanisms, but it also depends, of course, how you measure impact. Do you want, because there are many objectives which are pursued by the partnership. You know, on one hand, we try to measure impact on, does it really contribute to strengthen coherence in the way the UN country team supports DRR? Does it improve the collaboration between the national societies and the country team? Or has it contributed to increase investment in risk reduction in sector A, B, or C? So there are so many different, let's say, indicators. Do we measure more the UN coherence, or do we look more at the impact on country systems? In fact, we put more focus on the impact on country systems. And in terms of the result we see, it's not systematically successful. There have been countries where there was a diagnosis and the impact was really, I don't know, there was no uptake by the government. There was not enough national ownership of the process. So we learned a lot when it was not successful. But overall, the feedback we're getting from government is overly positive. So we always try to learn on how we can really improve our services. But yes, we do impact monitoring, of course. And it is accessible on the website, or of course, you can also ask your CADRI agency. What we're trying, just one last point, what we're trying to really monitor more today is what is the impact from a single agency perspective. For instance, what is the impact for UNICEF in its DRR programming, right? In nutrition or education? Is it helping making advancing UNICEF agenda in this sector or this sector? So we're also trying to see this perspective, even if it's of course interagency, but we also try to now capture more how it helps individual agency advancing the agenda. I hope I answered your question, but please feel free to reach out to us if you want to get hold of the country impact stories.
Thank you very much. Can I just, follow up very briefly and say, were there regional differences in the impact? Over.
That's a very interesting question. This I am not sure. Yeah, I will need to get back to you on this, because this is not something we've been looking at. What we could see is that we had to adjust the approach in Latin America compared to West Africa for sure. But in terms of, do we feel the methodology is more impactful from one region to another? I would need to reflect on it, but I would say that my first answer would be like, no, I don't see differences in terms of impact. I don't see that the uptake was better in this region or this region. For instance, in your region, we have 3 countries, Serbia, Georgia, Armenia, where the government is still building on the output of the CADRI engagement, and we could very clearly track the impact, and again the feedback was really very positive. But I would need to think more about your question, because that's an interesting one. Maybe I'm giving Malin the floor. Sorry. Malin, maybe your mic is on mute.
Exactly. Her mic is not on mute, but we cannot hear her.
Okay, so maybe, Malin, if your mic is not working, maybe you can type your question. And in the meantime, do we have another hand raised? Ruben, I cannot see the hand raised, so if you can see them.
No, I cannot see. Let me. But Malin is muted. I don't know. She's muted. She has her mic on mute.
Okay.
But Malin's question is in the chat.
Okay, very good.
She says, thank you for this exciting tool. Could you elaborate a bit more on the testing of how it is applicable for different sectors, such as education?
Well, I mean, if you look at, we can give you access to the questionnaire right now. It's already complete to some extent. But let's say that, for instance, for the education sector, you would have a question bank, which will look at all those dimensions of, okay, what are the required governance arrangements to ensure that the education sector integrate risk reduction, can be also an engine to build a culture of risk reduction in the country. So it will look at primary, secondary, but also tertiary. What kind of curriculum is available at university, etc. Then so you have governance, you will have implementation capacity, you will have, access to technology. All of that will be, actually, you would have specific questions that are related to those 5 capacity dimensions. So out of this, if the education sector is selected by the government in the Kyrgyz Republic as a priority sector, where they want to really improve their systems, then UNICEF, we would deploy a UNICEF expert to be able to actually navigate the tool, this module, the education module, together with the government. So again, when you are a UNICEF expert deployed on a CADRI mission, you would come in a supportive role to the government to be able to actually use the tool to really to do this kind of scan or diagnosis of capacities, skills, policies, etc. in the education sector, and how they contribute to advance disaster risk reduction and climate change adaptation. So that would be the application. I don't know if I answered your question correctly, but what I can do as well is really share with you a few CADRI, the capacity diagnosis, where the education sector has been covered by UNICEF. Also, just to mention that the CADRI CADRI is just a methodology and a deployment mechanism. It's not more than that, right? It's built of it's only meant to complement capacities in countries. If you have a top UNICEF expert in the Kyrgyz Republic already, we would never, or if you have done already a capacity diagnosis similarly, we would never ask UNICEF to deploy again, right? It's only when it is felt by the UN cities that there are no specific capacities in countries that we would try to tap into your expertise at regional level or global level. So it's not systematic. You will not be asked to go on all the missions. But of course, I must say that, for instance, the WASH sector is systematically one of the key sectors in any capacity diagnosis for risk reduction, of course. And if we don't, and usually you don't have this capacity in country, even if you have a good WASH expert, they would not have this risk-informed approach. They would not look at climate-sensitive WASH, and so very often we do need to mobilize this expertise, either from our headquarters or regional level, I must say. And I know it's sometimes challenging because you all have a lot of work, and DRR is not your core expertise when you are education or WASH. Yeah.
Thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Okay, then I just want to, I really apologize for the microphone mishaps, but really I would like to express that I think this tool as a coordinating and oversight is really, really exciting. And I think that looking forward to see the development and also see how it's tested. And I think that it's really what I think that we're looking for in terms of coordination, not only for DDR, but also for others to have a comprehensive overview as a complement and supporting other ongoing surveys and monitoring activities at the country. So apologies for my microphone. Over.
Thank you for your words of encouragement, because it was a lot of work, especially for UNICEF, by the way, because UNICEF is the only agency that covered 3 modules. No other agency had so much work on the tool. You cover too many sectors, that's why. So thank you, UNICEF. Any other contribution, question, or even challenging, obviously, why we do that, and is it really useful to have invested so much? So we welcome any feedback. I see a hand raised from our colleague from IFRC. Yes, please take the floor.
Yeah. Hi, Sophie. Just a quick question on the experts, especially on the WASH experts. We are now currently looking for a WASH expert. And can we refer practically to you and to your database to find someone who could really kind of deliver a training on WASH for Central Asian countries? Is this possible?
That's interesting you're asking that, because concurrently to the tool, the digital tool, we also started this mapping of all the CADRI Partners modules. And actually, I must say, I just looked at the result of the mapping yesterday. IFRC is a #1 partner in terms of modules in DRR. I was like, really? No, I think you're #1, right, Carla? I mean, Carla is leading this thing. So yes, so we've done it now. We have this kind of, we can present that another time, but we have this kind of massive mapping of, I think we have 150 modules specifically on disaster risk reduction in sectors, right? So in cultural heritage, specifically on gender equity or whatever. I mean, there is really a lot. Yes, logically, if you have a need, you should be able to first access the module, see in which language it's available, because we also did it by language. And I don't think we have a lot of Russian speaking languages. That's one of the big challenge now in the CADRI training offer. But yes, through CADRI or outside of CADRI, it doesn't really matter. You should be able to reach out to UNICEF, see if they have WASH experts who can facilitate the UNICEF WASH modules. And potentially be able to mobilize them. That's the ambition. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Yes, go please.
My name is Aygul and I am from UNESCO office in Almaty. Right now we are talking and just in the list 2 countries from Central Asia, Kyrgyzstan and Uzbekistan. And what about Tajikistan? It is also one of the countries who needs support on disaster risk reductions and other stuff like that.
I think I will hand over this question to Armen and Anne-Marie, because there have been a lot of discussion of this group on why or not Tajikistan. So I think Armen is best placed for sure. Unmute, Armen. You're muted.
Sorry. Thank you very much, Sophie, and thank you, Aygul, for the question. I think there are several aspects to be considered here. Of course, Tajikistan, I mean, we all know the disaster risk profile of the country and the need for, specific areas to be supported in Tajikistan. At the same time, we are looking at the interagency process, which is run by UN resident coordinator, and interagency process, which is run by the government of Tajikistan, and hopefully even owned by the government of Tajikistan. And I think, within these 2 domains, you will see a lot of aspects that are contributing to this or that factor. Tajikistan, we had a discussion with the RC, we discussed with the agencies. They seem to be very interested, but at the same time, they don't seem to be yet ready to go ahead with the government with this. Or maybe I should put it differently. Maybe the government needs a little bit more time to understand better what CADRI can offer and what will be the rationale of using the CADRI for the government. I think we did share quite a lot of materials as CADRI with the RC office. On my side, as UNDP, I have also had a series of discussions with senior management of UNDP country office on this, explaining how they can benefit from the CADRI, what arguments they can use to bring in the government, etc. In my last point, before I also suggest that Anne-Marie also reflects on this, is that engagement in a single country for CADRI partners, it's a collective decision. I'm not saying that there is no interest by CADRI partners to work in Tajikistan, but hypothetically, wherever CADRI partners decide to go, it should be a collective decision. The secretariat or regional co-hosts are not making decisions for everyone else. So in fact, Aygul, you come from UNESCO, as I can see. This is also, part of the UNESCO decision. There should be also a process which involves commitment and agreement from UNESCO side. Maybe I can also suggest Anne-Marie to complement.
Yeah, no, thanks, Armin. I think you covered it very well. And I think the last piece is the important part. We had a meeting with all the interagency just to discuss our work plan going forward. And in that, we looked at the potential countries we could support based on requests, based on interest and uptake, and also based on our capacities. And on the last piece, I think that's also important to note. This year, we're looking at both completing the Kyrgyzstan piece, which was challenged because of the COVID context, because of the ongoing spaces and changes in the political space. And we're also trying to take on Uzbekistan. So those are already two relatively large activities that require, it's somehow building on and pulling from the capacities within the region, who are also focused on delivering on their work plans, who are also impacted by the current context. So I think it's important to balance requests and needs, and also our capacity to appropriately and effectively fill those. So we've taken on 2 for this year. Some might spill over, but we will continue to have consultations. And then if the opportunity presents itself to further engage in Tajikistan or any other of we have up to 22 countries, right, across our region. So where and how we can support, that would also be a consideration. So I'll stop there.
There are no more questions. I don't see more, Sophie. No.
So if there are no more questions, in any case, again, this is the beginning. This is really just a very brief introduction. And for us, what is much more exciting would be, okay, have a special session on leaving no one behind, right? Or have a special session on what does that mean integrating conflict sensitivity. So we go more into the substance, etc. So that will be the ambition of the next round of webinars. Some of them, they will be specific for your region. Some of them, they will be more global. So stay tuned. Maybe let me share my screen again. Don't know if you see my screen.
Yes, we do.
Okay, so this we already went through the questions. So this fall, we should be able to share with you the link. You will be to the tool. You will be able to register. You've seen that there is this registration page where you can indicate, okay, I am an expert in this field. My secondary expertise is that. This is my language. And then you will be able to access the tools. There will be a video tutorial on the tool. So stay tuned for the next webinar. And also you have the contact of Armen and Anne-Marie here. You can contact them for any question on the tool and what's going on in the region. And you can also contact Ruben who is leading our work on the tool at the Secretariat in Geneva. And yes, I would say maybe thank you, maybe hand over to Armen and Anne-Marie. Also just thanking the government of Luxembourg, who has been supporting us financially for the development of this tool, the whole UN family and IFRC family. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sophie, and colleagues. We do appreciate your interest in the subject, and I personally look at it not as a one-off event. This hopefully it's a start of the process when we collectively look at the tool, look at the approaches that CADRI utilizes in the region, and move it forward. As I have unintentionally stolen part of the Anne-Marie's opening, I will stop here and defer to Anne-Marie. Please, Anne-Marie.
Thank you for stealing the opening. It was good that you covered all the elements. And just to echo our thanks to all of you. And I would say thanks to Sophie and the team as well for really pushing this piece of work forward within the context and challenges that we faced. I think it's exciting. I think the opportunity to test it and use it in upcoming missions and assessments is a really exciting opportunity for our region as well. And we really look forward to you continuing to engage, to provide your expertise, to provide your feedback, positive, and also to enhance the tool so that we can have a good tool that is tailored to our needs here. So I'll end by just saying thank you to you all for participating. Thank you to Sophie and colleagues for the work in developing this tool. And thanks, Armen, for being a great co-chair. It's always useful to have someone who can speak to the issues. And wishing you all a really pleasant weekend and a good weekend ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Good weekend.
Bye. Thank you.